also touch upon premiumization, the trend we've been chatting about here at NDTV Profit. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching India Market Open, and we have a very special segment on the show now. We're joined in studio by Rajeev Samant of Sulavineyards. Of course, Andrew Holland also continues with us, and we're hoping to have an excellent conversation about the trends in this market, in this space. Rajeev, first of all, welcome to NDTV Profit.
Thank you, and so congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, and thank you so much for coming into the studios today. Absolutely fantastic. Now, Rajeev, like I was saying before the break, you are the OG of introducing a domestic superb quality wine to urban Indians well before a lot of varieties were available. So kudos for that.
Thank you.
I want to understand whether the premiumization trend, which is there in so many discretionary industries, is being seen in a big way for you as well.
We've definitely seen that in a big way. Not only have we seen it, but Sula has really been pushing the whole premiumization trend. So, you know, in the last decade or so, we launched specifically 2 new brands, which are at the luxury, well, not luxury, but premium end of the market, which is our Source range and our Rasa range. And the growth in those brands has been much faster than the overall growth of the market. So we are definitely seeing it. We're seeing a lot more people. You know, when we started out, our wines, the sweet spot was around 500, 600 rupees. Today, it's more like 1,000 rupees, 1,100 rupees. So that's happening in a big way. Now, whether it's going to continue at the pace that it's happened over the last couple of years, not exactly sure. We are doing our best to ensure that happens. But definitely today, there's a huge market above 1,000 rupees for wine.
Rajeev, what is the expectation from this festive season? We're coming in at a very good time. Markets are looking really good. The sentiment is up and about. Andrew and us were talking about how things are actually looking up for the country. How does that do for wine?
So I must say that when we...
Christmas.
when we look at wine, we're talking about a really long story here. We're talking about a boundless opportunity and endless opportunity. Quarter to quarter, is a different kind of a ball game when you look at wine. Diwali has been possibly a little bit slower than one would have expected, and I think you see that across a lot of consumer industries as well. However, having said that, we do expect another strong quarter. There's still a couple of weeks. These are the most crucial 2 weeks of the year for us that we've just entered right now. But we're hoping that we won't disappoint once earnings come along.
But you had a pretty good Q2. You had a pretty good Q2, all things considered. And is your outlook also over the next 6 months looking positive, double digits on your EBITDA PAT coming in for sure and going stronger?
I hope so. Look, I want to point out that it's not only Q2. We have now delivered around 6 quarters of record-breaking quarterly sales, margins, and profits. So it's been a great trend for us. And that's the kind of trend that I certainly hope that we should see moving forward. That's what we're going to try to achieve and what we're going to try to deliver to our shareholders.
So we have Andrew Holland in our studios today, someone who tracks the company also pretty closely. Andrew, do you have questions for Rajeev?
Yeah, I do. On the hospitality side, which has been growing, I mean, we can never be able to book a room at Sula. I believe you just acquired or taken over another 30-bedroom hotel. Just tell us about that. How big do you think that will be for you in the future?
The hospitality is so important for Sula and for wine in general. I spent some years in California, formative years, and the one thing I realized there was that wine goes hand in hand with hospitality, the good life, beauty, aesthetics of the vineyards, etc. And so I was determined when I started Sula, the first thing that we looked for was a beautiful property that could be developed into something which becomes almost a pilgrimage spot for people to come and try wine for the first time. So I'm so happy today that Sula is possibly the most visited vineyard in the world, where more people probably taste their first glass of wine than any other place in the world. So it's extremely important for us from that point of view as a long-term growth driver in making people, taste wine and feel comfortable with wine and become our brand ambassadors. So, over 3.5 lakh visitors. Now we have over 100 rooms there at our Nasik property. We have plans to develop our Karnataka property. We are right outside Bangalore, just off the Bangalore-Mysore highway, so another great opportunity for us. And I really see the sky's the limit in terms of wine tourism. And as you say, there are many weekends where you still can't get a room.
Yeah. And in terms of, I think you mentioned you're looking at tier 2, tier 3 cities. Is that something that you've, what's the experience so far?
Yeah, very much. So we're just scratching the surface when we come to wine tourism. At this point, we've just been developing our own properties. However, obviously the next phase has got to be to move out of that and bring wine closer to exactly where you live. So that's really on the anvil, some plans to be announced fairly soon.
And sorry, last question from me. So, you're the leaders, and there's a lot of obviously other wine companies which may be struggling a little bit. Any further thoughts about consolidation? Any acquisitions in mind? Any diversification in mind for you?
We are always looking out, and it's always on the table for us. At this point, I must say that at this moment, we don't have a specific target in mind. Having said that, as you said earlier, we acquired York, which was just down the road for us, so a very natural acquisition, and that's a much smaller operation than ours. And we are always looking out for other wine brands, but nothing at this point in terms of beer and spirits. We're just going to concentrate on wine.
Rajeev, I'm going to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, right? While I know things are looking extremely positive, there was a recent study that was published that Gen Z is all about abstaining from alcohol. So after the millennials, if you've got a chart out of the future, alcohol is not their thing anymore, right? Are you looking, and of course tourism is one space that is going to be contributing heavily to your top line. Anything else, any new product launches, anything that's a little bit of a cusp, a mix, which is not really wine, but wine, or non-alcoholic beverages on the anvil? And then that brings me to the next question, inorganic expansion plans.
So Samina, I must point out that so much of this media hype and all of this news flow comes from the US.
Yeah. We're still behind the curve.
Yeah, so when you talk about India, we have a long way to go.
Okay.
I have good news for you in that all successive and new generations coming up are drinking more than the previous generation in the cities, which is the important market for us, right? At this point, we're really very much an urban brand. It's going to take time for us to move into the villages. So that's not something I'm worried about. India has the highest number of teetotalers by far of any country, or probably as many as the rest of them put together. So, there's only one way we can go, and that's up. Having said that, yes, it's very important that we look at different formats, etc. We are the pioneers. We've been the pioneers in so many things. We launched India's first wine in a can about 4 or 5 years ago. That was our Diya range. And I got to say that we've got it's been a very successful offering for us, and we've got some more products in cans that works very well with a younger audience in terms of fridge space in India, in terms of sitting on your couch watching IPL. You want just a simple format, cold, chilled can, just like beer, just like a soft drink. And we've got a lot of other exciting stuff happening
innovation,
as well.
I think that's going to be key to keep the
very new product development, very important for any company like ours, always happening.
Just break it down for us on top line. What percentage of your top line comes in from premium wine? What percentage comes in from tourism? And what's the outlook in terms of growth parameters that we're looking at?
So tourism, when you look at including the wine, so you won't find this in the P&L, you have to sort of dig deeper. We're coming up to around 16 to 18% of our overall revenue this year is going to be on wine tourism. So that includes, room revenue, etc., plus the wine that we sell on site. That's the most important thing for us, because we sell our most expensive wine, and that's where really people are getting to taste it. That's what, and in the remaining 85% or so, today something like 65-70% of our revenue is coming from premium. And 4 or 5 years ago, that was probably just about 50%. So there's been a huge shift at Sula towards the premium end of the range.
So I just want to understand that on the tourism side of it, are you looking to up that as a proportion of your top line? Any plans over there? And when you're saying that, more Indians and younger Indians are drinking alcohol and not really abstaining, but are they drinking wine? Because you have a gin rage right now, tequila is back, so people are drinking, but then there's always a flavor of the season.
See, when it comes to wine, we have possibly the lowest per capita consumption of wine on planet Earth, right? So less than 1% of alcohol-bev consumption today in India is wine. We, on the other hand, we have the highest consumption of whiskey, not per capita, but the highest consumption in absolute terms of whiskey on planet Earth as well. So there is, and we have the highest number of teetotalers, as I said. So there is huge opportunity to, convert, you can say, teetotalers to drinking wine at this side and whiskey drinkers. So your daddy drank whiskey. That means most probably you don't necessarily want to drink whiskey. You want to drink something different. You're going to choose tequila, you're going to choose gin, you're going to choose wine. But wine is something, especially for women, which is probably the most compelling, and that's very exciting for us.
So in terms of, we've seen FTA with Australia, and there's talk about the UK, Europe. How's that changing the industries? I know it's more at the premium end in terms of those in terms of those imports into India, but is it expanding the market? How do you?
It will. I want to point out something. If you just look at your own experiences, your social experiences, you're going to find that today there is no party and no event that's complete without some good wine being served. And a lot of people that which is very different than a decade back, will go up to the bar and say, which wine are you serving? And they're going to make their decision on what they're going to drink socially that evening based on the quality of the wine being served. We've come a really long way. We've come to a place where you cannot have, in certain social echelons, you should say, a party or an event without good wine being served, which was not the case just a decade ago. You could have spirits at the bar and you'd be done. So there's a huge shift. In terms of things like gin, tequila, all of that, look, these are exciting times for all alcobev. I'd say that India is the market for the future. So it's very exciting for us leading the wine revolution in India. We have 20 years of hopefully, good growth ahead. It's our job to deliver double-digit growth now, and we want to deliver that in tourism as well.
No concerns, Rajeev, about regulation?
Always concerns about regulation.
A lot of states want to, and some have banned alcohol. Others always, you see these in election manifestos, want to ban alcohol. Is that a concern on the horizon? And regulatory pressure, are you feeling that?
So regulatory obviously is very important in terms of alcobev, and wine is no exception to that. I must say though, the good news is that in the last couple of years, coming out of COVID, there have been more regulatory tailwinds than headwinds. COVID was very difficult. You can imagine, it was a disaster for alcobev, including for us. So many states, the whole country, there was a ban on alcohol for some time. Then states increased taxes to make up for the loss of revenue in other areas. All of them have started moving back now the other way. And you have a more enlightened regime in place in several states, of course, alcobev being a state subject, where they are looking at wine and beer separately from spirits. That's happening more and more. So it's been good rather than bad on the regulatory. Again, I say it can only go up.
Yeah, it's not constituted or labeled as hard liquor, so perhaps that helps.
It does still come in certain states under price controls. That's always an issue. But having said that, we're still able to get price increases through pretty reasonably. So.
Any sort of cost pressures that you're currently witnessing?
I'm really happy to say that wine has probably faced the least cost pressure in the last 3 years of any alcobev. And that's because our grape prices, which is our main ingredient, you can say, the main cost of goods, have been totally steady over the last 3 or 4 years, whereas you've had quite a bit of variation in terms of, alcohol and spirits during that time. And in terms of beer, it's a difficult situation ahead, the way we see it. Wine has not faced that, and that's why we've shown such improvement in our margins over the last couple of years.
I have to ask you this. Let's do a little bit of a SWOT analysis. It's great that you sound so optimistic, so positive. You've got all the opportunities, the strengths. What are the threats or risks that you worry about?
Well, it's not easy. Look, everything that you've said is obviously a challenge, right? So any entrepreneurial journey as well as any corporate journey is full of challenges. Regulatory is a big one. When you talked about the imported wines, Andrew, I didn't answer that. Yes, today you walk into a store, what was called wine shop today is really a wine shop. I mean, you'll just see walls of wines from all over the world. But, I want to point out that we've been building our brand now for 25 years, and that makes a difference. Today, Sula is wine, and wine is Sula for so many people starting to drink wine for the first time and remembering what they drank 10, 20 years ago. We're also bringing out new wines to address people who maybe they want to try something different. Wine drinkers are very adventurous. We're addressing that as well. We also have an imports group, so we do play in that, division as well.
Right.
But there's challenges every single day. You wake up and there are challenges. That's what it is running a business. But we deal with them.
Would you ever acquire a winery from overseas to kind of take you to the real top end, or I'm just asking?
I think when the time comes,
because your Sula is known.
If duties come down further, it's definitely something that we might consider. Right. So it's definitely not off the radar. For today, absolutely not on the radar. If we were looking at an acquisition inorganic, it would probably be in India. But down the road, who knows?
Any
Good question.
Fundraising plans, or this is all going to be internal accruals funding these big dreams?
Right now, we're really looking more at internal accruals. Okay. We have some exciting plans ahead.
So you've got free cash flow as well that is sitting on the books.
Yes, I mean, our gross margins right now are north of 70%.
Yeah, that's
so it's a good place to be. Having said that, if one of those acquisitions comes along, definitely we would need to probably raise something for that.
So fascinating conversation, very interesting conversation. Rajeev Samant, thank you for coming to the studios. Andrew Holland, thank you for coming to the studios and asking all of these questions. We just want to, absolutely. And we just want to say very quickly that, of course, we're looking at Sula as a company, as a business. In no way are we encouraging or discouraging the drinking of any kind of alcohol. This is purely looking at it as a business play.